She woke up in a hospital with no memory, just a man whispering, "I'm your fiancé." But every time she looked into his eyes, she remembered the fall. He says he saved her life. Her memories say he tried to end it. This is the CEO who deceived me. Who was Landon Reed, really? On paper, he was Silicon Valley royalty, a self-made tech genius who built $1 billion empire before his 35th birthday, the kind of man who graced magazine covers and commanded boardrooms with a single glance. But papers can be rewritten, histories can be erased, and empires can be built on lies. Why did Amelia lose her memory? The official report called it an accident, a tragic fall down the stairs of their penthouse apartment. Head trauma, severe amnesia. She was lucky to be alive, but accidents leave evidence, and this one left questions. Questions Detective Sarah Miller couldn't ignore. Questions Jordan Hale was too afraid to ask out loud. Questions that kept surfacing in Amelia's dreams, in fragments she couldn't quite grasp. And here's the real mystery. What truth was powerful enough for a billionaire to bury? What did Amelia know before that night? What files did she access? What conversation did she overhear? What secret was worth stealing a woman's entire past? Because when you have unlimited resources, you can erase almost anything. Bank records, surveillance footage, witnesses who suddenly change their stories. But you can't erase everything. Memories have a way of surviving, of clawing their way back to the surface when you least expect them. And when Amelia's memories return, they bring something else with them, the truth and the hunger for vengeance. Before the hospital, before the lies, before everything shattered, there was a woman who believed in her work, her future, and the man who promised her both. Amelia Carter wasn't born into privilege. She earned every step of her climb. Stanford MBA, 10 years grinding through corporate America, pitching, strategizing, winning accounts that made her competitors wonder how she did it. By 32, she was the executive vice president of marketing at Cross Technologies, one of the fastest-growing tech firms in the country. She didn't just have a seat at the table, she owned her corner of it, and sitting at the head of that table was Landon Reed. Their first meeting wasn't love at first sight, it was respect at first pitch. Amelia presented a bold rebranding strategy that would have intimidated most CEOs. Landon didn't blink. He leaned forward, smiled, and said 2 words that changed everything. Hire her. What started as professional admiration became something else. Late nights at the office reviewing quarterly projections. Strategy sessions that turned into conversations about art, ambition, philosophy. The way he listened when she spoke, like her words were the only thing in the world that mattered. Landon was magnetic, visionary. He had this way of making you feel seen in a room full of people. He made Amelia feel like an equal, like a partner building something revolutionary together. She fell for him the way you fall asleep, slowly, then all at once. 6 months into their relationship, he proposed. Not with a public spectacle, but in his office after midnight, both of them exhausted from closing a major deal. He got down on one knee between the leather chairs and the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. "Build this empire with me," he said. "Not as my employee, as my wife." She said yes, but empires aren't built on dreams alone. They're built on secrets, on compromises, on carefully hidden sins. What Amelia didn't know was that Landon Reed had been using her from the beginning, her credentials, her access codes, her digital signature on documents she never saw. While she was building marketing campaigns, he was building something else entirely, a network of shadow transactions, offshore accounts, data breaches disguised as system updates. Every late night she thought they were bonding, he was studying her passwords. Every strategy she shared, he was calculating how to use it. Every moment of trust was a transaction. He called her his muse, his equal, the brilliant mind behind his success. What he meant was the perfect scapegoat. By the time Cross Technologies caught the attention of federal investigators, Landon had already built his exit strategy. And that strategy had Amelia's name written all over it. The boardroom meeting happened on a Thursday, October 14th. Amelia wasn't invited, which was strange. She was always invited. Jordan Hale, her colleague and one of the few people she trusted in that building, sent her a cryptic message that afternoon. "Don't go home tonight. We need to talk." She never got the chance to respond. That evening, Landon came home early. Unusual for him. He poured wine. He smiled. He told her he had a surprise. "I want to celebrate us," he said. "Everything we've built." What happened next? Amelia can't remember. But the investigation would later reveal traces of sedatives in her bloodstream. A 911 call placed from Landon's phone, his voice frantic and perfect. "My fiancée fell, please, she's not responding, there's so much blood." And somewhere in a secure server Amelia no longer had access to, a single text message sat in Landon Reed's archived files. "She can't find out." 3 words that sealed her fate, 3 words that erased her past, 3 words that would eventually become her reason to fight back. It started with a number that didn't add up. Amelia was reviewing quarterly reports late on a Tuesday night, October 12th. 2 days before the boardroom meeting she'd never attend. She was cross-referencing marketing budgets with actual expenditures when she noticed it. $3 million. Gone. Transferred to a subsidiary account she'd never heard of. She dug deeper, found more. 12 million, 20, 35. A web of transactions all bearing her digital signature, her credentials, her authorization codes, except she'd never authorized any of it. Her hands went cold. This wasn't a mistake. This was systematic, deliberate, and it pointed directly at her. She needed proof before she went to anyone. She stayed late, downloaded files to an encrypted drive, documented everything. By midnight, she had enough to clear her name and destroy whoever was really behind this. She just didn't know that the person behind it was sleeping in her bed. Amelia left the office at 1 in the morning. The parking garage was empty, fluorescent lights humming overhead. She was exhausted but relieved. She had the truth. She had evidence. Tomorrow she'd take it to the board. Tomorrow never came. The crash happened on Highway 101 northbound, just past the exit to her apartment. Her Tesla veered suddenly into the concrete median barrier at 60 miles per hour. The impact was catastrophic. When emergency responders arrived, they found her unconscious, severe head trauma, the driver's side crushed inward. But here's what they didn't find: brake marks. No evidence she'd tried to stop. And the encrypted drive she'd been carrying? Gone. The official report called it driver fatigue, a tragic accident. A brilliant young executive who'd been working too hard, pushed herself too far, fell asleep at the wheel. Case closed. But accidents leave patterns, and this one left questions that the official report conveniently ignored. Why would a Tesla's autonomous safety features completely fail? Why was the crash data from the car's computer corrupted and unrecoverable? Why did 3 different traffic cameras along that stretch of highway malfunction at the exact time of the incident? Detective Sarah Miller noticed. She always noticed. But without evidence, without witnesses, without anything concrete, her suspicions remained just that. Suspicions. While Amelia fought for her life in intensive care, Landon Reed moved quickly. He held a press conference within 48 hours. Standing in front of the Cross Technologies logo, looking devastated and composed in equal measure, he announced that Amelia Carter had tendered her resignation weeks earlier due to health concerns and stress. She was struggling, he told the cameras, his voice breaking just enough. "I tried to get her to take time off. I wish I'd done more." He assumed control of her project, absorbed her team, erased her name from the marketing strategy she'd built from the ground up. By the time Amelia woke up 3 weeks later, she no longer existed at Cross Technologies. Her key card was deactivated, her email deleted, her office reassigned. And in the hospital, something strange was happening. A night nurse named Patricia Chen noticed it first. She mentioned it to a colleague during a shift change, not thinking much of it at the time. "The fiancé visits every night," she said, "right around 9. But he doesn't stay long. 10 minutes, maybe 15. He sits by her bed, holds her hand, whispers something I can't hear. Then he leaves." "Maybe it's too painful," her colleague suggested. "Maybe," Patricia said. But she didn't sound convinced. What Patricia didn't mention, what she didn't see, was what happened during those visits. Landon would sit beside Amelia's bed, watching the monitors, the steady beep of her heartbeat. He'd lean close, his lips nearly touching her ear, and he'd whisper, stories, memories, their history, carefully edited, rewritten. He was planting seeds, building a new narrative, preparing for the moment her eyes would open. On his way out one evening, Patricia saw him pause at the nurse's station. He was holding something, a small velvet box, the engagement ring. He opened it, stared at the diamond for a long moment, then closed it and slipped it back into his pocket. "She'll want to see this when she wakes up," he said to no one in particular. "She'll want to remember us." Patricia watched him walk away, his footsteps echoing down the empty corridor, and she couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply, terribly wrong. 3 weeks after the crash, Amelia Carter opened her eyes. She remembered her name, her childhood, her education, her career. But the last 2 years? Gone, wiped clean. She didn't remember cross-technologies. She didn't remember the financial discrepancies. She didn't remember the encrypted drive. And she didn't remember the man standing beside her hospital bed, tears streaming down his face, holding her hand like she was the most precious thing in the world. "Thank God," Landon whispered. "I thought I'd lost you." Amelia stared at him, confused, searching his face for recognition that wouldn't come. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "But who are you?" Landon smiled, a sad, gentle smile. "I'm Landon," he said, "your fiancé, and I'm going to help you remember everything." And that's when she forgot who he was. The man who deceived her, the man who destroyed her, the man who nearly killed her. He became her hero, her anchor, her love story, and he had her exactly where he wanted her. Recovery is supposed to be linear. You wake up, you heal, you rebuild, you move forward. But what happens when the person helping you recover is the reason you need to? Amelia spent 6 weeks in rehabilitation, physical therapy for her injuries, cognitive therapy for her memory, and every single day Landon was there. He brought flowers, her favorite books, he said. He showed her photos of them together, vacations she couldn't remember, moments that felt like someone else's life. He was patient, gentle. Everything you'd want in a partner during your darkest hours. The doctors called her lucky. Retrograde amnesia, they explained. The last 2 years were gone, but everything else remained intact. Her childhood, her education, her professional skills, all still there. The memories might come back, her neurologist told her, or they might not. The brain is unpredictable after trauma like this. Landon squeezed her hand. "We'll make new memories," he said. She wanted to believe him. She had no reason not to. But 50 miles away, in a cramped office at the San Francisco Police Department, Detective Sarah Miller wasn't buying any of it. Sarah had been a detective for 14 years. She'd worked homicides, fraud, organized crime. She knew the difference between bad luck and bad intentions. And everything about Amelia Carter's accident smelled wrong. She started pulling threads, the traffic camera footage that mysteriously corrupted, the Tesla's black box data that was somehow unrecoverable, the timing of Amelia's resignation announcement before she'd even regained consciousness. Then there were the financials at Cross Technologies. Sarah requested records. What she found was a masterclass in corporate manipulation. millions in questionable transactions, all digitally signed by Amelia Carter. Offshore accounts, shell companies, money moving in circles designed to confuse anyone trying to follow it. On paper, Amelia looked guilty of massive fraud, but Sarah had seen enough frame jobs to recognize one. Why would someone embezzle money and then drive themselves into a concrete barrier? She asked her partner. Guilt? He suggested. Or someone made sure she couldn't talk, Sarah countered. But suspicion isn't evidence. And without evidence, Sarah's hands were tied. She kept digging, quietly, carefully, waiting for the moment something solid would surface. While Sarah investigated in the shadows, Amelia tried to rebuild her life in the light. Jordan Hale visited her in the hospital. He was one of the only familiar faces from before, though she couldn't remember their friendship. He brought coffee and told her stories about the office, carefully curated stories that painted a picture of her success without mentioning the complications. You were incredible, Jordan told her. Everyone respected you. You had this way of making impossible campaigns work. What Jordan didn't tell her was that her name had been scrubbed from every project she'd led, that Landon had taken credit for her strategies, that the company she'd helped build had erased her like she'd never existed. Jordan wanted to tell her. The truth sat in his throat every time he visited. But every time he considered it, he'd remember the night before her accident, the cryptic message he'd sent, the warning she never got to hear, and he'd remember the conversation he'd overheard in Landon's office 2 days after the crash. Landon on the phone with someone, his voice cold and calculated. The problem is contained, Landon had said. She won't remember, and if she does, no one will believe her. Jordan knew too much. And knowing too much in Landon Reed's orbit was dangerous. So he smiled. He brought coffee. He encouraged Amelia to rest, to heal, to start fresh. Maybe this is a chance, he told her, to reinvent yourself, leave the corporate stress behind. Amelia nodded, but something about Jordan's smile didn't reach his eyes. Something about the way he looked at her felt like pity. Sometimes the only thing more dangerous than what you forget is who wants to keep it that way. Amelia was discharged from the hospital in early December. Landon took her to the penthouse apartment they supposedly shared. She walked through rooms that felt like a stranger's home. Expensive furniture, modern art, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Do you recognize anything? Landon asked gently. She shook her head. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry, he said. We'll make this home again. Together. But at night, alone in a bed she didn't remember, Amelia's dreams were anything but peaceful. Flashes, fragments. A voice she recognized but couldn't place. Landon's voice, but different, colder. She can't find out. Numbers scrolling on a screen, her hands on a keyboard, frantically typing, fear rising in her chest, headlights, the sound of metal crunching, darkness. She'd wake up gasping, her heart racing, unable to shake the feeling that she was forgetting something crucial, something that could save her life. During the day, she tried to move forward. She went to therapy. She took walks. She let Landon show her their life together through photographs and stories. But the feeling never left. The sense that something was profoundly wrong. While Amelia struggled with fragments of a past she couldn't access, Landon Reed was everywhere. Magazine covers, tech conferences, news interviews. The headlines told a story of triumph through tragedy. CEO saves company amid personal crisis. Landon Reed, how I led cross technologies through the storm. Tech visionary overcomes adversity to record profits. He was the hero, the survivor, the man who'd held everything together while his fiancée fought for her life. The press loved him, investors loved him, the board loved him, and Amelia, watching from the sidelines of her own life, felt like a ghost. 3 months after the accident, on a cold February morning, something changed. Amelia went to the mailbox in their building lobby. Bills, catalogs, and a small padded envelope with no return address. Her name was written on it in block letters, nothing else. She opened it in the elevator. Inside was a flash drive, black, generic, the kind you could buy at any electronics store. Taped to it was a small piece of paper with 4 words written in the same block letters. For when you remember. Amelia's hands trembled. Her pulse quickened. She didn't know why, but every instinct in her body was screaming that this mattered. That whatever was on this drive was the key to everything. She slipped it into her pocket just as the elevator doors opened to the penthouse floor. Landon was in the kitchen making coffee, his back to her. "Good morning," he called out. "Anything interesting in the mail?" Amelia's hand closed around the flash drive in her pocket. "No," she lied. "Nothing important." And for the first time since waking up in that hospital bed, Amelia Carter understood something with perfect clarity. She didn't trust the man she was supposed to marry. And somewhere, buried in the darkness of her stolen memories, was the reason why. The flash drive sat in Amelia's desk drawer for 2 days. She told herself she was waiting for the right moment. When Landon was at work, when she had time to process whatever she'd find, when she was ready. But the truth was simpler. She was terrified. Terrified of what she'd see. Terrified of what she'd remember. Terrified that opening that drive would confirm the whispers in her dreams. The instincts screaming that something was fundamentally wrong. On the 3rd day, while Landon was at a board meeting downtown, Amelia locked herself in the home office and inserted the drive into her laptop, one folder, labeled Evidence. Inside were video files, audio recordings, documents, emails, bank statements. Her hand hovered over the mouse, one click away from a truth she couldn't unknow. She clicked. The first video was dated September 28th, 6 weeks before her accident. Security footage from the Cross Technologies parking garage, timestamp 2:17 a.m. Amelia watched herself exit the building, looking exhausted, carrying a leather messenger bag. She walked to her car, got in, drove away. Nothing unusual, until the timestamp jumped forward. 3 minutes missing from the recording. Someone had edited the footage. The second file was audio, a recording from October 10th. 2 days before she found the financial discrepancies. 2 days before everything fell apart. She recognized the voices immediately, Landon and someone else, a man she didn't know. Landon's voice, cold and calculated in a way she'd never heard from the man who held her hand in the hospital. "The platform is worth billions, but it's under her credentials. Her signature is on every patent application. So remove her," the other voice said simply. "I can't just fire her. She built it. She knows every line of code. If she goes to a competitor, then make sure she can't go anywhere." Silence. Then Landon spoke again, quieter this time. "There are other ways to handle this." Amelia's blood ran cold. She paused the recording, her hands shaking. There were more files, dozens of them. She spent the next 4 hours descending into a nightmare she'd been living but couldn't remember. Email chains showing Landon systematically using her credentials to authorize fraudulent transactions. Documents proving he'd stolen her work on an AI platform, an innovation she'd conceptualized and developed, and filed patents under his name only. Bank statements showing money flowing through accounts she'd supposedly controlled but had never opened. And then, the most damning piece, a video file dated October 14th, the night of her accident. The footage was shaky, clearly recorded on a phone, hidden. She recognized the location immediately, their penthouse, the living room with those floor-to-ceiling windows. She watched herself on screen, younger by months, but aged by stress. She was confronting Landon, her voice shaking with rage and betrayal. "I know what you did. I have proof. Every transaction, every forged signature. Every lie. Landon stood by the windows, his back to the camera, perfectly calm. Amelia, you're upset. You're not thinking clearly. Don't gaslight me. Her voice broke. I trusted you. I loved you. And you used me. I built us an empire. You built yourself an empire. On my work, on my reputation. You made me the criminal while you played the hero. She watched herself move toward him, holding something. The encrypted drive. The evidence she'd compiled. I'm going to the board tomorrow. I'm going to the FBI. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly who Landon Reed really is. That's when Landon turned. His face was visible now. No warmth, no charm, just cold calculation. No, you're not. The footage cut off. Amelia sat in stunned silence, tears streaming down her face. She remembered. Not everything, but enough. The argument. The fear. The way Landon had poured her wine that night, insisting she calm down, that they talk rationally. The way the room had started spinning, the way her words had slurred, the drive home she barely remembered, the way her hands felt heavy on the steering wheel, the way the car seemed to move on its own. He'd drugged her, sent her out onto that highway, waited for the inevitable. And when she survived, when the amnesia gave him a second chance, he'd rewritten their entire story. The prince who saved the princess. The devoted fiancé nursing his beloved back to health. The CEO who weathered tragedy with grace. All of it was a lie. The platform she'd built, the revolutionary AI system designed to predict market trends with unprecedented accuracy, was now Cross Technology's flagship product. Worth an estimated $3 billion, and Landon Reed was the sole credited inventor. Amelia's phone buzzed, a text from Jordan. Did you get the package? We need to talk. Somewhere he can't hear us. So it was Jordan. Jordan who'd been carrying this truth, who'd tried to warn her the night before the accident, who'd been living with the guilt of not doing more. She replied, "Coffee, tomorrow. Don't tell anyone." That evening, Detective Sarah Miller received an anonymous email. No message, just file attachments, video, audio, documents, everything from the flash drive. Sarah opened them in her office, her partner standing behind her, both of them watching in growing horror. "That's him," her partner said. "That's Landon Reed planning to eliminate a witness," Sarah finished. "To cover up fraud, theft, attempted murder. This is admissible. We can arrest him tonight." But Sarah was already shaking her head, her jaw tight with frustration. "Look at the metadata. These files have been in civilian hands. Chain of custody is broken. Any defense attorney worth their degree will get this thrown out. We need original sources, server records, unedited footage." "So what do we do?" Sarah stared at the screen, at Landon's face frozen mid-threat. "We keep building the case, quietly, and we pray Amelia stays safe long enough for us to do it right." But Amelia wasn't interested in waiting. She met Jordan the next morning at a coffee shop in Oakland, far from their usual circles. He looked exhausted, haunted. "I'm sorry," he said before she could speak. "I should have done more. I should have gone to the police that night. I should have—" "You sent me the drive," Amelia interrupted. "You gave me the truth. That took courage." "The police have it too," Jordan admitted. "But that detective, Miller, she says it might not be enough. The recordings, the footage, it's all compromised evidence now." "Then evidence isn't enough." Jordan looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something that made him afraid. "Amelia, what are you thinking?" She didn't answer directly. Instead, she asked, "Does he know? That I have the files?" "Not from me." "Good. Then he still thinks I'm the victim who loves him. The woman with no memory who believes his every word." "What are you going to do?" Amelia's eyes were steel. "I'm going to give him exactly what he wants. A devoted fiancé. A woman who trusts him completely. A partner who wants to work by his side. She paused, her voice dropping. I'm going to get close enough to destroy him from the inside. Over the next 3 weeks, Amelia became someone new. She worked out. She studied. She researched everything about cross-technologies, about the AI platform she'd created, about Landon's business dealings. She hired a private investigator under a false name. She opened secret bank accounts. She created a new identity, complete with credentials and references that couldn't be traced back to her. And then she applied for a position at Landon's company, not as Amelia Carter, as someone else entirely, Miranda Hayes, AI consultant, recently relocated from Boston, impressive credentials, exactly what Cross Technologies needed for their expanding platform. She didn't want revenge. Revenge was messy, emotional, short-sighted. She wanted something purer, something that would cut deeper than any physical harm ever could. She wanted the truth to hurt. She wanted Landon Reed to watch everything he'd stolen crumble, to see his empire exposed, to feel the same helplessness she'd felt waking up in that hospital bed with no past and no answers. She wanted him to lose everything the same way he'd tried to erase her, and she wanted him to know in the end exactly who'd brought him down. The woman he'd underestimated, the woman he'd tried to destroy, the woman who refused to stay buried. Miranda Hayes was hired within a week. Landon Reed himself conducted the final interview, never recognizing the woman sitting across from him. Different hair, colored contacts, a slight change in her voice, coached by a dialect expert. Confidence where there used to be warmth. She was a stranger wearing Amelia's face, and he never saw it coming. For 6 weeks, Miranda worked inside Cross Technologies. She integrated into the AI development team. She earned trust, she asked questions, she documented everything, and slowly, carefully, she began to see the full picture. The financial fraud was worse than she'd imagined. Landon had created an intricate network of shell companies using Cross Technologies as a funnel for money laundering operations that went far beyond simple embezzlement. Defense contracts, data sales, technology transfers to foreign entities. But there was something else, something that didn't fit the narrative she'd constructed in her mind. She found emails between Landon and Jordan, dozens of them, dating back 2 years. Jordan hadn't just known about Landon's schemes. He'd helped execute them. The night Amelia confronted him in the parking garage, Jordan had been there. He'd been the one to tell Landon she was getting close. He'd been the one to suggest they needed to act quickly. The warning message he'd sent her that day, "Don't go home tonight. We need to talk." It wasn't a warning at all. It was bait, to see if she'd run, to confirm what she knew. And when she didn't respond, Jordan had called Landon. The betrayal cut deeper than anything Landon had done. Because Landon was a predator. She understood predators. But Jordan, her friend, her colleague, someone she'd trusted, he'd sold her out for money and fear. Amelia, still playing Miranda, confronted Jordan in a conference room after hours. Just the two of them. "I know what you did," she said quietly. Jordan's face went pale. "Miranda, I don't... It's me, Jordan." The silence that followed was deafening. Jordan sank into a chair, his head in his hands. "He said he'd destroy me," Jordan whispered. "He had evidence I'd leaked proprietary information to a competitor years ago. He said if I didn't help him, he'd ruin my career, my life. I didn't know he was going to hurt you. I swear I didn't know about the accident until after." "But you knew about everything else. The fraud, the stolen work, the frame job." "I tried to make it right. The flash drive was too little, too late." Jordan looked up at her, tears in his eyes. "What are you going to do?" Amelia stood. "What I should have done 6 months ago. Tell the truth." She left him sitting there, drowning in his guilt. But the real confrontation was still to come. Amelia requested a private meeting with Landon. Executive consultation, she said. Ideas about the platform's next evolution. He agreed immediately. He'd been impressed with Miranda's work. He always recognized talent worth exploiting. They met in his office after hours. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The same view from the penthouse where he'd drugged her, where he'd sent her to die. Amelia closed the door behind her. "I need to show you something," she said, pulling up files on her tablet. "Some irregularities I found in the platform's original code." Landon moved closer, interested. That's when she showed him the evidence, the recordings, the documents, all of it. His face changed. Shock, then recognition, then something darker. "Amelia." "Hello." "Landon." For a moment, neither spoke. The mask had dropped. They saw each other clearly for the first time since the hospital. "How long have you known?" he asked. "Long enough." Landon moved to his desk, poured himself a drink with steady hands. The charm was gone. What remained was colder, more honest. "I suppose congratulations are in order. You played the part well." "I learned from the best." He laughed, a sound without humor. "So what now? You take this to the police, the media, destroy everything I built?" "Everything we built," Amelia corrected. "That's what hurts you most, isn't it? That you needed me. That without my work, your empire doesn't exist." Landon took a long drink, then set the glass down. "You want the truth, Amelia? The real truth?" "I know the truth." "No. You know part of it. You know I used your credentials, stole your work, framed you for fraud, all true." He stepped closer. "But you don't know why it started. You don't remember what you did." Amelia's certainty wavered. "What are I talking about?" "The tech leak, 18 months ago. 3 million in classified defense contracts lost because someone on our team accidentally sent encrypted files to the wrong server. Files that ended up in the hands of a foreign competitor." "That wasn't me." "It was. Your email. Your mistake. One wrong keystroke, and suddenly we had federal investigators crawling through everything." Amelia's mind raced. Fragments of memory, still fuzzy, still incomplete. "I came to you," she whispered. "I told you about the mistake." "You did. You were terrified. You wanted to report it, take responsibility, face the consequences. And you stopped me." Landon nodded slowly. "Because I loved you. Because I knew it would destroy your career. So I buried it. I created shell companies to hide the breach. I redirected the investigation. I used your credentials to build a trail that would confuse anyone trying to follow it." He paused, his voice dropping. "I protected you. And in doing so, I created a monster I couldn't control. The fraud grew, the lies multiplied, and when you started asking questions, I couldn't let you expose everything without exposing yourself." Amelia felt the room spinning. "So you tried to kill me. I tried to save you. I drugged you to keep you calm, to buy time to fix everything. I never meant for you to drive. You weren't supposed to leave the penthouse. But I did, and you let me. I panicked. I thought if you disappeared for a few days, if I could clean everything up, you thought I'd die and your problems would disappear with me." Landon's silence was answer enough. Amelia's hand moved to her pocket. The small recording device had captured every word. "Here's the difference between us, Landon. When I made a mistake, I wanted to face it. Take responsibility. You turned it into an empire of lies. And you turned yourself into exactly what you claim to hate. Look at you. False identity, manipulation, deception. You've become me." The words stung because they held a grain of truth. "No," Amelia said firmly. "I became what I needed to become to stop you." She walked to his computer, inserted a flash drive, and uploaded every file, every recording, every piece of evidence. "What are you doing?" "Tomorrow. Cross Technologies is hosting a company-wide broadcast. New platform launch. Press, investors, employees. You'll be live. Amelia's fingers flew across the keyboard. And in the middle of your presentation, the truth goes live. Every screen, every device, everything. You'll destroy the company. Thousands of jobs. You destroyed it the moment you built it on lies. Amelia pulled the flash drive free and headed for the door. Amelia. She stopped, but didn't turn. You'll never know what I did to save you. She looked back at him one final time. The man who'd deceived her. The man who'd nearly killed her. The man who claimed it was all for love. I know exactly what you did. You saved yourself. And you called it love. The next morning, the broadcast began as scheduled. Landon stood on stage, confident and polished, launching the new AI platform to thunderous applause. Investors smiled. Cameras flashed. The future looked bright. Then the screens changed. Audio played. His voice, cold and calculated, planning, confessing, revealing. Video footage showed financial documents, email chains, the truth laid bare for everyone to see. The auditorium fell silent. Faces turned from the screens to Landon. Confusion, horror, betrayal. Security footage from the night of Amelia's accident played. Landon's confession from the night before echoed through speakers. Within minutes, FBI agents entered the building. Federal investigators seized servers. The stock price plummeted in real time, numbers falling on every screen like a countdown to destruction. Landon stood frozen on stage, watching his empire collapse around him. And in the back of the auditorium, Amelia watched, not as Miranda Hayes, as herself. Detective Sarah Miller stood beside her. We have enough now, Sarah said quietly. The confession, the evidence. He's going away for a long time. Good. What about you? What happens now? Amelia didn't answer immediately. She watched as agents led Landon away in handcuffs, cameras capturing every moment of his fall. Later that evening, Amelia returned to the penthouse one final time. She packed only what was hers, what had always been hers. On Landon's desk, she left something behind. The engagement ring, the one he'd carried in his pocket at the hospital, the one he'd used to sell a love story that never existed. It sat in its velvet box, catching the light from the floor-to-ceiling windows. And beside it, a note, 3 words in her handwriting. I remember everything. Amelia walked out of that apartment, out of that life, and into a future that was finally, truly hers. The man who deceived her would spend the next decade in federal prison. The friend who betrayed her turned state's evidence and disappeared into witness protection. And Amelia Carter, the woman who'd lost everything and fought to reclaim it, understood something profound. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't revenge. It's refusing to let someone else write your story. She'd been erased, rewritten, nearly destroyed. But she'd rewritten herself, on her own terms, in her own words. And that was a power no one could ever take away. So let me ask you something. Was Amelia Carter a victim or an avenger? She lost 2 years of her life, her career, her identity, nearly lost her life itself. All because she trusted the wrong person with her heart and her brilliance. But she didn't stay lost. She fought back. She deceived the deceiver. She became exactly what she needed to become to bring him down. Some call that justice. Others call it revenge. The line between the two has always been thinner than we'd like to admit. When love becomes a weapon, who really wins? Landon lost his freedom, his empire, his carefully constructed image. But Amelia lost something too. Her innocence, her ability to trust, the version of herself that believed the best in people. She survived. She won. But victory in stories like this always comes with scars. Here's what I know. Amelia's story isn't unique. The details change. The names are different. But the pattern repeats itself in boardrooms and bedrooms across the world. Someone with power. Someone with ambition. Someone willing to sacrifice another person's truth for their own success. And someone brave enough to fight back. This story is based on true patterns of betrayal, real cases of corporate fraud, manipulation, and relationships weaponized for personal gain. The names have been changed. The details have been dramatized. But the heart of it, the devastating reality of it, happens every single day. So I'll ask you again. What would you have done in Amelia's place? Would you have walked away, taken the clean evidence to the authorities and trusted the system? Or would you have done what she did, infiltrated his world, and made sure he felt every ounce of the pain he caused? There's no right answer, only honest ones. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me if you think Amelia went too far or if she didn't go far enough. Tell me if you've ever trusted someone who turned out to be wearing a mask. Tell me your story. Because these stories, they matter. They remind us to trust our instincts, to question the narratives we're fed, to remember that not everyone who holds your hand has your best interests at heart. If you want more stories like this, twisted tales of love, deception,